Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting, Kettering City Council. Today's date is September the 28th, and as always, we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight's meeting, we'll pause for a brief invocation. Dear Lord, thank you for all who serve the Kettering community. Give us enthusiasm for our work and wisdom to make the right decisions. May we remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so we may continue to serve our citizens with integrity and purpose, always remembering to be worthy of these responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. Our Miami Valley Communication Council TV operator in the back, Mike Soproni. Mike, thank you as always. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. Mr. Lauder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have reviewed the minutes from the August 24th, 2021 council meeting and workshop minutes, as well as the September 2nd, 2021 special workshop minutes. I find them both in order and therefore move for their approval.
Second.
Any questions or comments? If not, call the roll, please.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes. Next, we'll move on to special presentations, Neighborhood Pride Awards. Is Dawn here? Where's Dawn? Oh, there she is. Okay. Dawn Kirchner will be, our volunteer administrator, will be making the presentation this evening. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mayor Patterson and members of City Council. The Neighborhood Pride Program entered its 33rd year this year. Over the years, it's become a treasured award for Kettering residents. The Neighborhood Pride Program honors property owners who have made significant improvements to their homes and businesses. In May, all Kettering property owners received information from you, Mayor Patterson, asking for nominations for the award. In response, we received just over 400 nominations, and they were reviewed by our dedicated committee of volunteers. The Neighborhood Pride Program divides the city into 12 districts. In June, July, and August, one residential property is selected from each of those 12 districts, as well as one commercial property to be recognized as a Neighborhood Pride Award winner. Typically, award winners are invited to the City Council meeting that we're here in right now to receive their award from Mayor Patterson. But this year, in an effort to keep our residents and council members safe and healthy, we're going to be hosting a drive-through award presentation this Thursday, September 30th, starting at 5:30 p.m. In addition to receiving their certificates from Mayor Patterson, winners will receive a photo of their property and a copy of tonight's video presentation, which will be posted to the city's website tomorrow. As a new employee, learning all I can about the city of Kettering, starting this position during the Neighborhood Pride Program has been a wonderful way to become acquainted with those 12 districts, as well as to see firsthand the care and attention its residents place on making their homes and businesses an example of why Kettering is a wonderful place to live and work. I've really been truly impressed with everything that I've seen. But before we start that video for this year's Neighborhood Pride winners, it's important to remember all the people that made this program possible this year. So I want to thank those individuals right now. First off, our co-chairs, Rob Jan, Gail Carone, Mark and Carol Messer, who guided the committee of volunteers, Jim Bolton, Chuck Dickerson, Pat Ferguson, Gail Heller, Dell and Jenny Herbeck, April Mason, Donna Spears, Kathy Waker, and Maureen Willadis. Thank you for your time reviewing all of those 400 nominated properties, your adaptability as changes continue to occur, and your enthusiasm for showcasing the best of Kettering. Thank you too to Carlos Schumacher of the Miami Valley Communications Council for filming all of the properties, creating the video, and recording the footage on flash drives to send home with our winners. And thank you, Mayor Patterson, City Council, and City staff for all of your continued support of the program and participation in the upcoming drive-through awards. On behalf of the Neighborhood Pride Committee, we congratulate all of the 2021 winners, and let's enjoy the video.
Don, thank you. And thanks. I know our volunteers are usually here and all, but because of all this, they're not. And that's a lot of work that goes into that thing, where they have to go around and look at these places. Carl does an unbelievable job in going around and filming these places. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and congratulations and thank you to all the folks that are involved with this. So thank you, and hopefully next year, of course we said this last year, we'll be back to normal for Neighborhood Pride. So with that, we'll move on to public hearings, which we have none this evening, and public comment on legislation. Anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speakers must state their name and address. Comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. Is there anyone that wants to speak on legislation that's on the agenda tonight? Okay, next we'll move on to ordinances in second reading. Vice Mayor Kleepass.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have an ordinance this evening in its second reading to amend the traffic control map and the traffic control file of the city of Kettering to show the installation of traffic signs on various streets in the city of Kettering, Ohio. It's requested by Engineering Department. I move for its approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This ordinance will allow us to implement the traffic control measures at the new street donation circle at College Drive. It's a new cul-de-sac that we put in over at Miami Valley Research Park. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Schwederman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have an ordinance in second reading to provide for the table of organization, position, classification plan, compensation plan, and pay schedules and rules and regulations pertaining to conditions of work and supplemental benefits for the employees of the city of Kettering, Ohio, and to repeal ordinance 4353-20. Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the personnel ordinance for the city employees for 2021. The amendment to the ordinance is related to the implementation of a retroactive increase for our employees, non-union employees, back to the beginning of 2021. This retroactive increase is consistent with the recently completed negotiations with several of our bargaining units. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Schwederman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes. Moving on to resolutions. Ms. Fisher.
Your Honor, I have a resolution accepting the rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying same to the Montgomery County and Greene County auditors. It is requested by the Finance Director, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the annual legislation accepting the city's property tax rates. It is required by Montgomery County and Greene County, as well as the Ohio Revised Code each year. I want to stress that this does not represent any new or increase in taxes. We're certifying a 3.5 voted outside millage, the 2.2 unvoted inside millage, as well as the police pension 0.3 unvoted inside mills. And then finally, our bond retirement fund, which is the Parks and Recreation bond levy at 0.63 voted. Be happy to answer any questions. The total does come to 6.63.
Any questions of Mr. Schwederman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Kleepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept donations from the Kettering FOPA and the Kettering Police Foundation, estimated cost $300, requested by the Police Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwederman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are pleased to report that we have received donations from the Kettering FOPA as well as the Kettering Police Foundation for $1,800 each. The funds will be used for the purchase of of 2 police mountain bikes for our police department bike patrol unit. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Schwedeman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract with Motorola Solutions and P&R Communications for upgrades to the Kettering Dispatch Center. The estimated cost is $80,000. Amount budgeted is $100,000. It's requested by the police department. I move for its approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwedeman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will allow us to enter into agreements with Motorola Solutions and P&R Communications for the installation of the 5th dispatch console at our dispatch center. As you know, our dispatch center handles Kettering Police Department and Kettering Fire Department, and beginning in January of 2022, we'll also handle the Miami Township Police Department. This equipment will be funded through our existing 911 funds. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Schwedeman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into and implement a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Kettering Lodge Number 92, which is consistent with a tentative agreement reached by the bargaining teams. This is being requested by our Human Resources Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Schwedeman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We recently completed mediation sessions with our patrol bargaining unit and came to an agreement that is very similar to the agreements we reached with other bargaining units this year. We'll call for pay increases of 2.5, 2.5, and 2.25 for the 3-year term of the contract, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Schwedeman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the submission of applications for the Federal FAST Act funds and the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act funds through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. It is requested by the Engineering Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is our annual request to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission for federal funds to complete roadway projects on various thoroughfares in Kettering. This year we are submitting 4 projects. One is to resurface a portion of Wilmington Pike between Beaverton Drive and East Stroop Road. Another project to resurface Woodman Drive between Wilmington Pike and Stalker Drive. A third project to make improvements to Marshall Road between East David Road and Wilmington Pike. And a fourth project to resurface Dorothy Lane between South Dixie Highway and Hague Avenue. The first 2 projects, Wilmington Pike and Woodman Drive, we would look to have those completed in 2023 if awarded funds. And then Marshall Road and Dorothy Lane would be completed in the 2026 or 2027 timeframe, depending on availability of funds from MVRPC. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Bergstresser? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to use competitive bargaining and negotiated quotes and to contract for engineering design services for the West Avenue Bridge Rehabilitation Project, City Project number 03-948. Estimated cost is $60,000. Amount budgeted is 2021 CIP underspending funds. Requested by the Engineering Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will allow the city to start the design process on the West Avenue Bridge Rehabilitation Project. This is a project that we recently submitted applications for funding through the Ohio Department of Transportation Municipal Bridge Program and also the Ohio Public Works Commission. The project would involve the replacement of the concrete box beams on the bridge and basically replace the superstructure of the bridge. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Bergstresser? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to declare the necessity and intention of acquiring property interest in Project Parcel 21WD of Kettering traffic signal replacements Phase 3 project, city project number 02-005D, ODOT project MOT Kettering, signals, Phase 3, PID number 105950. Wow. Estimated cost is $611. It's requested by Engineering Department. I move for approval.
Second.
And I'm sure you're going to explain all that, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor.
$611.
That rather long title for a project relates to a federally funded project through MVRPC, ironically, that we have scheduled for next year to replace a number of traffic signals around town. This particular resolution is in regard to a small piece of right-of-way that we need to acquire at the intersection of Patterson and Rembrandt. We've been working with the property owner to negotiate a purchase for the right-of-way. However, we are not able to resolve the acquisition and come to an agreement in a timely manner to keep the project on schedule. Therefore, we are wishing to initiate the process for appropriation this evening through this resolution. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Bergstresser? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase real property commonly known as 3404 Wilmington Pike. Estimated cost of $35,000. Funds available is zero, and it is requested by the Planning and Development Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Sweeterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize us to enter into contract for the purchase of 3404 Wilmington Pike. Our estimated cost to purchase is $35,000. We're also anticipating the expenditures for demolition of the structure once we have purchased the property. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Sweeterman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing a donation to the Kettering Backpack Incorporated for the Kettering Backpack Program. Estimated cost is $30,000, requested by Planning and Development. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Sweeterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a donation to the Kettering Backpack Program in the amount of $30,000. This is in recognition of their services to the Kettering children during the last summer as they fed children throughout the community. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Sweeterman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Abstain.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for supplemental grant from the U.S. Small Business Administration requested by Parks, Recreation, and Culture Arts Department. I move for its approval.
Second.
Mr. Sweeterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an opportunity to apply for funding with the Small Business Administration for this shuttered venue grant. This would be our second application for this type of funding. The city previously received an initial reward of over $2 million. This amount of funding would be $1,014,956.33. This particular grant would amend the performance period to increase the performance period through June 30th of 2020, through the period of June 30th, 2022, essentially extending the period of performance by 6 months. Both the first grant and the second grant will be used for operating funds for the Fraze Pavilion. Once we pass this resolution this evening, we will apply for the funds and come back to City Council if awarded the funds. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Sweeterman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make appropriations, for current expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. This is being requested by our Finance Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Sweeterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a number of items tonight for the 2021 Supplemental Appropriation, many of them related to previous resolutions. The first is a supplemental appropriation of $448,200 for the amendment to the personnel ordinance to reflect the retroactive pay increase of 2.5% back to the start of the pay period, or December 21st, 2020. We are also requesting general fund transfers for those pay increases for the Street Maintenance Department, the Police Pension Fund, and the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Fund. We also have a supplemental appropriation of $56,600 for the pay increase related to the recently passed bargaining unit agreements for retroactive increases in 2021. This includes $56,600 for fire captains. We also have a supplemental appropriation for the dispatch center for $124,100 for the additional full-time dispatchers related to the contract with Miami Township. A supplemental of $50,000 is requested for economic development for the purchase of 3404 Wilmington Pike and the future demolition. A supplemental appropriation of $3,600 for our police department to reflect the 2 donations received for the mountain bikes. We also have a supplemental appropriations of $8,100 for the replacement of fire department uniform T-shirts. And I think I should explain that a little more fully, since this is not something you would normally see. However, we purchased the uniform T-shirts earlier. Those T-shirts have not met the standards of our purchase, and we will be receiving reimbursement for the replacement of these T-shirts. So because of the need to receive that reimbursement, we're appropriating the funds to keep better tracks of those funds. And then finally, we have a supplemental appropriation of $30,000 from the general fund to other cost centers for the contribution to the Kettering Backpack Program. Number of items, Your Honor, and Council. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sweeterman? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke? Yes. Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes. Moving on to ordinances in first reading. Ms. Fisher.
Well, we need to appropriate project parcels 13-WD of the Kettering traffic signal replacements, and that is Phase 3 project. City project number 02-005D, which is ODOT project MOT Kettering signals, Phase 3 PID numbers 105-950, and to declare an emergency. And this is a first reading.
No, there needs to be a motion to approve.
For approval.
In a second.
Sir,
Come on.
Who's that?
Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. Similar to the previous resolution regarding this project, this is another parcel right-of-way that we need to acquire at the intersection of Dorothy and Ackerman, which is another traffic signal replacement that will be completed with the traffic signals Phase 3 project. This particular property has some existing tax liens that are unlikely to be resolved in time to keep the project on schedule. Therefore, we are wishing to appropriate the parcel. And the reason for the emergency ordinance this evening is to keep the project on schedule in time for bidding next spring. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Bergstresser? Being none, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mr. Lauder?
Yes.
Mayor Patterson?
Yes. Moving on to certifications and petitions. Ms. Kozinski.
Your Honor, we have 2 certifications this evening. Planning Commission is recommending approval of PC 21-015 zoning text amendment. A public hearing regarding this request will be held on Tuesday, October the 12th, 2021 at the Kettering City Council meeting. Planning Commission is also recommending approval of PC 21-016 comprehensive plan amendments. A public hearing regarding this request will be held on Tuesday, October the 12th, 2021 at the Kettering City Council meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to City Manager's report and community update. Mr. Sweeterman.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a number of slides for you this evening. The first is to once again mark it that Saturday, October the 2nd from 9 to noon here at the Kettering Government Center will be our annual Shred Day. This program is put on in conjunction with sponsorship from Dare Credit Union. So residents can bring their shred material to the government center during that time frame, and we'll take it from their cars and it will be shred right there on site. Very popular program. There will be lines early on, a little less lines later on if you'd like to come a little closer to noon. National Fire Prevention Week will take place October 3rd through October the 9th. Our residents can contact the fire department regarding questions about fire safety, and the fire department will be putting together a video that will be presented to the Kettering school children during Fire Safety Week. Medicare open enrollment will take place October 15th through December the 7th. Once again, we will be having a program with our senior services program at the Kettering Connection. You can schedule an appointment by calling the Connection at 296-3330. The Kettering Municipal Court will be having an amnesty weeks in October. The Municipal Court will be offering amnesty through from October 18th through October 29th. To be eligible, 50% of the court costs and fines must be paid in full for the remaining to receive the amnesty. The court costs and fines must be beyond the last 30 days ordered. As with all good programs, some restrictions apply. To take advantage of the program, you can visit the Kettering Clerk of Court's office at the Kettering Municipal Court on Wilmington Pike, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30, or you can call their offices at 296-2461. Our leaf pickup program will begin on Monday, October the 18th. We encourage our residents to rake their leaves to the curb. They do not have to be in the street, but rake them to the curb. And we ask that they only rake leaves and not brush or other items. Brush can be taken to our yard debris center on Woodman Center Drive. We will keep our leaf hotline at 296-2472 updated as we make our way through the community to pick up leaves. And lastly, Your Honor, we have the reminder that Beggars Night will be Sunday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. And we'll continue to make this announcement throughout the council meetings in October. With that, Your Honor, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions of Mr. Schwedeman? Okay, moving on to audience participation, point and program. If you'd like to come speak for council, please come on down to the podium. We do ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes, and if you would give us your name and address.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Alex Temple. My address is 2020 Kildare Avenue. It's a North Dayton address. However, I'm a young entrepreneur that's kind of growing in this area, and I install flagpoles. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always been around veterans, and since I was about 8 years old, we've been doing honor flights, which is basically where you take a veteran and you actually fly them or go with them to Washington, D.C., and a lot of my family members are veterans as well. And so this has given me very much of a passion to give back to those veterans. If it wasn't for those veterans, we would not be able to stand here today. We would not be able to go home tonight and lay our head down at rest and not have to worry. But because of that, earlier this year for Memorial Day, we actually put together a parade float. It's a Iwo Jima replica memorial that my dad and I constructed over the course of about 2 months. Since Memorial Day, we've been invited to several parades throughout all of Ohio. In fact, we'll be doing one this Saturday. However, it came to our attention that there's not very many Veterans Day parades. And so what we kind of have envisioned is a Veterans Day procession. Not so much of a parade to where you have to shut down actual streets, and because that would cause logistical issues, but we want to have a procession to where it's almost like a small convoy that we can just go around and thanking our veterans. Go around the VFW post, and then also American Legion post as well. American Legion post 598, who was mentioned in the video earlier tonight, is somewhat backing this idea. Neil Dunningham, the actual captain or the commander over there, is super excited about this idea, and I just wanted to open this up to you guys tonight to see what we can do about this for Veterans Day this coming year.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a great idea. Anyone else like to come speak for council? If not, oh, come on down, please.
She's been here before.
Hi, my name is Carol Costa, 421 Shaw Farm Lane, 45429 in Kettering. I've been a resident in Kettering for about 25 years, and I've used the fitness center on Far Hills several times a week until I retired in April of 2019. I was an ER physician, and then I used it every day. And that was continued until November of 2020 when I just stopped because it was too dangerous to go there because of COVID. I resumed going back in June of 2021 this year after getting vaccinated. And my concern today is the use of the fans in the gym. As you all, I'm sure, are aware, the risk of transmission of COVID went up a whole lot because of the Delta variant. Just a couple statistics. In Montgomery County in the last 7 days, there was 2,051 new cases, 289 hospitalizations, and 14.37% positivity rate on testing. Only 56% of the eligible population is actually vaccinated here. So I was concerned about contracting COVID because I was going to the gym despite wearing a mask there. So I took my concern up the chain of command, basically. I went to the fitness center supervisor, Lindsay, and talked to her. She said that was out of her control and to talk to her supervisor. 2 days later, I received a call from Shauna, the director of Parks and Recreation City Commission, to talk to me about it. And again, they said they really couldn't make a change, but they were following CDC guidelines. And they recommended I speak to Mr. Sweeterman at City Council. So before coming to City Council. So he called me back. I spoke with him a couple days later. And he also went through and said CDC guidelines is what we're going to follow. And he couldn't make that change. He could only offer recommendations, and he said to come and talk to you. So that's why I'm here. I do want to comment, though. I was very impressed by the response I got from my phone calls. I mean, everybody was friendly and helpful and made the next step easy. That was really, it felt good to do that. So back to the problem. Nowhere will you find a more efficient way to spread COVID than an asymptomatic but infected individual on a cardio machine in the gym, blowing out COVID virus 30 to 60 times a minute. And in the fitness center on Far Hills, in case you haven't been there, it's sort of a rectangular, one large room, and there are huge fans on each of the four corners that are up to the ceiling level, and they all blow down towards the center. And so it's pretty strong. You can feel that air moving no matter where you stand. So I went and reviewed the CDC guidelines. The latest I could find were June 2nd of 2021 on ventilation in buildings. They actually said indoor use of fans was a good idea, but you had to use them the right way. You can decrease the chance of COVID if you use them correctly. But they did say, and I'm quote, avoid placing fans in a way that could potentially cause contaminated air to flow directly on one person to another. So the guidelines also provided a lot of suggestions to how to place the fans, and that would help decrease the spread of COVID. And they also talked about something called directional airflow, which is outside of my realm, but these were also ways where you could decrease transmission and make your gym more effective. So I have 3 requests of City Council. I would ask that the city manager or city engineers be asked to study the situation in the fitness center using the CDC suggestions and guidelines. The second would be to stop the use of the fans at that fitness center until the study is completed and recommendations implemented if there are any. And the third would be to consider ways to make the air filtration system currently in use at the fitness center, and I have no idea what it is, but to make it more optimal to decrease the risk of COVID for people that work out in that gym, because that's a very high-risk situation. I think we're going to have COVID around for quite a long time, and that might be a real service to those of us in the community that work out there. Now, I understand that air blowing on you when you're working out on cardio feels really good. I mean, I've had that happen to me hundreds of times, but sometimes you have to make a compromise, and I suggest that perhaps we could lower the temperature in the fitness center while you're studying this, if you would agree to do that. Any questions? And Mr. Schwederman, I do have a copy of that if you want, so you don't have to look it up.
Thank you, and we'll get with Mr. Schwederman and see what we can do as far as getting you an answer on that. Anyone else like to speak for council, please? If not, we'll move on to council reports and updates. Begin with Vice Mayor Klepaz.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our last council meeting was August the 24th. We didn't meet on September 14th because we didn't have a quorum that evening. But activities did not stop because of that one meeting. So in the last month, there's quite a bit of different events that occurred. I'm going to mention a couple highlights in my little world. The first one is on August the 26th, the annual Sisters Cities Spasnak fundraiser occurred again. And as in the last 4 or 5 years, it rained. The difference this year was it didn't wait till Spasnak started to rain. It started raining before Spasnak started. So even more people stayed away. But we had our monthly meeting last night, and the financial reports were in. And with all the fire sales of leftovers, they wound up breaking even. We're going to be back again next year on June 16th. So check your weather forecast for June 16th of 2022, and it'll probably say something about rain. And keeping in the spirit of weather, the block party was on September 2nd. We had no trouble getting people there, having great weather, and the highlight, of course, of the evening was the dilly bars that all of council was able to pass out again. Also on September 2nd, we opened a new business in town, the Gem City Music Center. It's over, my best definition is over by Elsa's on the Marshall Road side, and Miss Kathy and Miss Rebecca are taking new music students there, and that's what their little business is. So we wish them well, and hope they have much success in their time at the new business in Kettering. On the 23rd, all of us attended the Officer of the Year event put on every year by the Kettering Centerville Kiwanis. Jesse Anderson was the recipient this year. It follows a long history of proud winners of that award. The Kiwanis Club has been doing that award for many years. Larry Warner is the person that puts that together. Thanks to the chief for being there to nominate Jesse, and wow, he just blew us all away with his little presentation afterwards, or right off the cuff, and what he does and how much he loves his job and the city. Also, I'd like to, on behalf of City Council staff, congratulate our mayor, Don Patterson, who was awarded the Dave Hobson Dayton Region Advocate Award. Actually, it was awarded that by the Dayton Development Coalition in a ceremony that took place in Washington, D.C. last week that he wasn't able to attend. But the award's named after U.S. Rep. Dave Hobson of Springfield, and honors regional leaders for their advocacy on behalf of the Dayton region. So we're all really proud of you, Mayor, for getting that award. And last but not least, I mention every 2 weeks we need to support our small businesses in Kettering. And today I had an example of supporting a small business, and when we got there to have lunch, there was a sign on the door that said closed. We need help. They can't get people. So maybe besides supporting those small businesses, we can try to support the small businesses by leading some maybe new possible candidates for jobs to some of those small businesses. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Lauder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Couple of items. I won't repeat what Councilman Klepaz has already mentioned. Several of us on August 29th attended a fundraising dinner that Parks Foundation put on at the Phrase Tusk concert. The Fleetwood Mac cover was performing. On September 1st, again, a number of us were at The Taste, held at Lincoln Park. That's always a lot of fun. I know my wife and I really enjoyed that. I'm sure we may all remember there was a parade, a whole holiday at home activities that took place over Labor Day. All of us in one form or the other were involved with that. And then finally, I recently saw that our Parks and Recreation Department received their re-accreditation. We almost take that for granted, but we also know how much hard work and effort goes into that process. So congratulations to Parks, Rec, and Cultural Arts Department. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher.
Well, it is true. We have had a lot of activities. For myself, I've had 15 plus activities, and we're not going to repeat ourselves, so don't get too worried out there. But I want to uplift Mark and his team. What you all really don't realize is we do spend a lot of time talking about our budgets and how we want to spend our money. And so our capital improvement program, we spent a large workshop working through that, and the team did an excellent job, so I want to publicly uplift them. Holiday at Home at the gala, it was awesome because we did recognize some kids with some scholarships, some really top individuals that are really spending a lot of community time out there. It's amazing what some of our 18 and 19-year-old, I'll call them kids, are doing in our communities. And so I was blessed to be the representative for the council at the gala and also the VIP reception. Last thing I want to bring up, and besides Miss Lisa Duvall, who's sitting out here, who knows that it is National Registration Day today?
Voter registration.
Voter registration day today. So I bring that up because we do want people to vote. A little bug went in my mouth, I think. This November. So I got a bug when it was flying by. Make sure you're registered. No, it's right here. Make sure you're registered by the 4th of October so you can vote. That's all I got.
Mr. Duke, thank you.
I swallowed a bug.
Just to clarify, register by the 4th of October.
4th of October, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple of things. First, Don Kirchner is our volunteer administrator and did a good job on our program this evening. But Don, on behalf of myself and council, condolences on the passing of your father, Pappy de Thomas, a great guy, and I just wanted to share that for all of us. That happened last week. In addition to that, a big thank you to Dawn. We had the Kettering Leadership Academy retreat September 12th and 13th. This year we were not able to go to Poland Farm, to Camp Joy because of COVID issues, so we held it here in town. We have 16 students, potentially the best class ever. Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Lauder, I'm sorry, but they'll be in potentially. I always say potentially, but it was really a great retreat. 2 days, full class, everybody there. We're excited about it. It should be a good year for us. And finally, on the 15th of September, I've spent the last several months working with the First Tier Suburbs Consortium here in town on a talent attraction and retention forum, which was held on the 15th of September at Sinclair. We had about 103 both online and in-person individuals, and it was a very successful conference. And I just want to give a brief shout out to Mark and Amy on our staff and Tony that were there in person. I really appreciate that. And also to Shauna Kaczynski and Amy Hayslip, who really helped put this thing together. Putting together a conference where you have out-of-state speakers and a whole bunch of panelists takes a whole lot of work, and it takes more than just a few of us to do it. So I really want to thank those folks. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple things that we haven't highlighted. I was privileged to attend the Chet Rouse Hall of Fame induction. I sit on the judge. I've been a judge for a number of years, and it's always amazing to hear the stories behind the teachers. I don't run in that circle, so Bill was a presenter this year for a guy who presented and got him last year. So it was enjoyable to hear two friends go at each other and kind of toss each other under the bus each year. So it's a great program, and what they do is amazing. And I'll tell you, it's hard to pick the winners of that daggone thing. The resumes we get, all of them are winners, and it's a great event. We talked about the Holiday at Home Parade. 9/11. We had a ceremony over at our 9/11 memorial, and it was great. Thanks to the fire and the police department, and everybody within the city that put that together. And it was a time where we came together so that we would never forget. So thanks to everybody who attended that and helped put that together. I had the opportunity, as I have forever, to go to the Mill Creek Block Party. And that's the Bradleys who run our Christmas program. And it was the first time, although I have given out hundreds and hundreds of proclamations, it was the first time I received a proclamation. And they had some fun with that, and I understand that Shauna was kind of involved with that, and Mary, and some problems. So you were thrown under the bus, but they had a good time, and all the neighbors took a big old rock and they all signed it. So it was kind of neat. And those of you know, I always give 2 big boxes of Esther Price candy for the Holiday at Home. So they gave me my own, my own little box of Esther Price candy. So thanks to Bill and Mary now. On the 23rd, I had the opportunity to, throw down the first puck at Reynolds and Reynolds' annual hockey game over at our arena. It's a sales versus a service department, and it's a fun time. They have a good time, and I appreciate them for inviting us. Thanks to the Dayton Development Coalition for the Dave Hobson Award. Excuse me. As I said on some of my posts, this was an award that was not only for all of council, but all of city staff and, our great residents. This was, nothing that I did. It was a group effort. I guess the most humbling part of that was when I was notified. I went home, and those of you that know my wife, Maureen, who was very active in the community for years and years and years, I told her that I was the recipient of the Dave Hobson Regional Award, and she looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, I got one of those." So she took me to the bookcase and showed me in 2012, and sure enough, and she even rubbed salt in the wound and said, "Yeah, Dave Hobson presented mine to me." So thanks to Jeff Hoagland, the Dayton Development Coalition, it meant a lot, and I'll cherish that award. So if there's no other business to come before us this evening, the next regularly scheduled meeting is September the 28th, and with that, we stand adjourned.